Coming up on Man Enough. Speaking of what's happening in Iran, by the way, this is not happening because of women's leadership.
Right.
Right? This is happening because of patriarchy. This is happening throughout society. All throughout the world, we see this happening.
Iran is a cautionary tale of what happens when you start letting religion seep into politics. And I go, if you don't think they're going to take away your rights, they already did. The right to choose.
Being man enough, what does that mean?
It's really manly to mess up, admit you're wrong, and then grow.
I couldn't accept that I was evil. So maybe I'm broken, but those broken things could be corrected.
Intimacy between a father and a son is me just wanting to put my head in your lap.
I love you, son.
You haven't called me benevolent sexist, but my experience is women are better.
Even if it's a positive, it's still not equality.
I don't blame men for that. I just blame the system.
This
is
Man Enough.
Hello and welcome to Man Enough. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Justin. Hey, Jamie. I'm good.
Jamie's having a day over there.
I'm having a great day.
I feel like you had 3 coffees going on.
I have had 3 coffees.
Okay.
We've got a lot going on here at the studio.
How you feeling? And you had a tough call earlier. You got a pit in your stomach?
I do have a pit in my stomach. You know, it's interesting. I have a thing, and maybe I don't want to say it's related to being a man, but I want to be able to make everybody happy all the time. And I also want people to like me.
And that didn't happen today.
No.
All that to say, I'm super excited for this guest.
Me
who has
too.
been silent the last minute and a half because we told him to pretend like he's not here.
I'm not here.
Maz
Boom.
Jobrani.
Hey, Justin, how are you?
Man, I'm so excited that you're here with us.
I'm happy to be here with you. And Jamie, I'm sorry about what you did earlier to me, and I will forgive you. I'm going to tell everybody. I asked him if I could have some cookies, and he said that they don't have enough. So
we did not. We actually had 4, and we would not share the 4th one with you.
it was really a sad moment. I cried.
He did.
And then I saw him cry. And it was a really nice
Wow,
connection.
you bonded
we connected
right
on that.
there.
All
Yeah.
over cookies.
Yeah.
And I love that you brought your 11-year-old daughter who's outside doing some homework.
Yeah, she's doing some homework. She's I picked her up from school and en route we said, let's go. It's great. She's tagged along before. The one time I did a show, it was a podcast or a show, I forget what it was. My son was probably 4 or 5. Nobody knew how to handle a kid. And I was like, I'm going to be on air. Can somebody, and they were like, and nobody really knew what to do. And at that time he'd gotten good at busying himself with an iPad if you put a video in front of him. And for whatever reason, he's usually very focused on it. He stopped watching his iPad, and then he was behind the cameras trying to get my attention.
Oh.
While the host, and the funny thing was the host was not at all if you're on my show, I would have fun with that.
Of
I'd be
course.
like, oh, hey, look, your kid's trying to get a
Yeah.
make it part of the whole thing. It's kind of like that. What was the social
viral guy.
What's the
on
thing you
new-
just told me about? The reel?
Oh, Be Real.
Be Real.
It's a new social media app.
It is
So
new,
Be
yeah.
Real is Be Real. And so it was just funny to me that we were in this situation, and it wasn't I don't know, it wasn't ABC News where it was something. It was a show and they were all ignoring him,
Taking themselves way too
and he was
seriously.
going like this and starting to cry, and I was
Oh.
so that's not gonna happen with Mila.
We're
so.
all parents here.
Yeah.
You
We're
could have
all
been
parents
the viral BBC dad. That was one of my top favorite comedic sketches of all time. The dad who was on BBC.
Wait, that was a
talking
sketch?
about,
That wasn't
no,
real?
it was the comedic timing
Oh,
of
got
that video,
Yeah.
and the young girl, the toddler that walks into the shot. He's just talking as if she isn't in the background, just wrecking havoc. And then the other kid shows up, and then the wife pulls out and she pulls the door. It's hilarious.
It's good
Yeah.
comedy. It's just
Yeah.
escalating.
It's so funny.
Speaking
Exactly.
of comedy, can we
Yes.
share about this brilliant man sitting next to me?
Yes.
Yes, Maz is an acclaimed Iranian-born American, stand-up comedian, actor, author, podcast host, who is a founding member of the comedy group, The Axis of Evil. And he's done a bunch of films, Friday After Next, Dragonfly. He's most known for his Netflix and Showtime specials, and a specific one that's called I'm Not a Terrorist, but I've played one on TV, which we definitely want to talk about. He's also been in Superior Donuts, on Curb. He's in an episode of Curb, which I'm going to rewatch after this. And we're so excited that you're here.
Thank you, and I appreciate you guys, listing stuff. It's always funny because Dragonfly is a funny one because I had the Dragonfly was a movie with Kevin Costner, and he played, I think he was he was a surgeon or something, and I literally had one line. It was OD attempted suicide. That's it. That was my whole thing.
Wow.
And it was interesting because
Seems like an important line, though.
it wasn't. Yeah.
Feels-
But the funny thing was, Tom Shadyac was the director. You guys know Tom Shadyac?
Yeah,
He did
Tom,
like
I Am.
Yeah, and didn't he do Ace Ventura? And
He was famous for all those movies.
yeah. So Kevin Costner's playing this emergency room doctor, surgeon, and there's been an accident, like a pile up, and there's 20 people rushed into the hospital. It was choreographed and it took like a day and a half to shoot because there was like 20 people moving in this scene, and we kept doing it right up to my line, OD attempted suicide. We kept getting that angle, and we finished that like after a day. But by now, I have the line because OD attempted suicide. And so we did it, and for whatever, I don't know what happened, I come running down, and he goes, "What happened?" I go, "OD." And then 1,000, 1,000. I go, "Attempted suicide." I just forgot the line. And then back to places. Now I'm ready to go again. I'm like, oh my God, okay, I don't think anybody noticed. And then here comes Tom Shadyac walking down the hall. Great job. Keep doing it. Hey, Kevin, fantastic. You, extra number 4, you guys are great. Did it. And he comes up to me and goes, "Listen, let's just do it. Like, you don't have to, just less." I was like, oh, you noticed.
Just say the line.
Just say the line. I was like, I didn't mean to. I don't know what happened. Anyway, I feel like
I looked into Kevin Costner's eyes and I froze.
I did. I swear to God,
That's
I
what it
think
was.
that's probably what happened.
Real quick, we gotta ask you the first question we ask every single guest.
Yes.
All right. When was the last time that you didn't feel enough?
Like I wasn't enough for something.
Like you just
Didn't feel enough.
didn't feel enough. You had a lot of insecurity, self-doubt. You were struggling. You just didn't feel enough of a dad, enough of a man. It could be anything.
I try not to be too hard on myself, I'll be honest with you, just because I know that there's a lot of circumstances that cause everyone to act the way they do. So, gosh, you want to be heroic every time, but sometimes you just can't be. So I'm trying to think about it. We've been going through this thing as an Iranian American. There's been protests in Iran. It started when the authorities, what's called the morality police, stopped this 22-year-old girl named Mahsa Amini in the streets. Her hair was out of her hijab a little bit. They arrested her, and then they beat her, and they beat her to death. And then they said that, she just died of natural causes, which is total crap. And then these protests started, and the protests got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now the whole diaspora outside of Iran has started to protest and be out there and support the people of Iran. And I've been trying to do my best to do the same. But the people of Iran really are the ones who are in the line of fire because the regime is very brutal. It's been 43 years. They've executed a lot of people. It's very totalitarian. I'm trying as much as I can to post about it. And the line we keep saying is amplify the voice of the Iranian people, because it's not getting a lot of media coverage. It's getting some, but not a lot. And again, understandably so. We have our own problems in this country. There's Ukraine and Russia. There's a lot going on. But also in Iran, there's been they've closed the internet, so a lot of things can't get out. So we really are actually the voice of the Iranian people. If you can get a clip and repost it, it's something. And I guess in a way, as much as I've been trying to vocalize that and be the voice and help spread that word, you still don't feel enough. And because you go, how can I stop this from happening? And every once in a while, you get a sprinkle of hope. Like just the other day, President of France, Macron, said, this is not just protest, it's a revolution, which it really is. And that probably has come about because so many people have been screaming and screaming and screaming. I don't know. Yeah. So you do feel like you wish you could be Superman and go in there and do something, but you really can't.
And, this is a podcast that's all about masculinity. It's all about gender. We really reflect on relationships between men and women. And one of the things I think that's so interesting about what's going on in, Iran is that very often Iranian women are underestimated, right? People think, oh, these are the most oppressed women in the world. And, they can't travel. They can't, get a divorce. They can't even, they're not in control of their body and their finances. But these women are so powerful and right, like, I mean, it's not just women, it's teenage girls that are leading really this revolution against a authoritarian regime. So can you speak to that dynamic? And as an Iranian man, what can men do to support this movement in the best way possible?
Well, I think it's beyond just women. I think it's a human thing, right? I mean, I as a human, even before I had a daughter, I was always moved by anyone who is being oppressed in any fashion. And so if you are open to that, then you show up. So if you're white, you can still go to a Black Lives Matter protest. If you're a man, you can still go to a woman's Me Too protest. You can still show up because as a human being, I always try to encourage my kids to stand up for the underdog. And in that case, they're the underdog because they're the oppressed. And so what happened in Iran was in 1979, when the revolution happened, the Shah of Iran, before the Islamic regime took over, the Shah had been a force of modernizing Iran. He had his own issues when it came to certain human rights issues and stuff, but it was not even close to what we have here. So this revolution happens, the Shah leaves, Ayatollah Khomeini comes in, and under the pretense of religion, they go, oh, this is going to be a utopia. But then they quickly start executing enemies from the previous regime. And then they go into a war where several million people die, and a lot of young Iranian lives were taken because it was this war with Iraq, 8 years, I think, approximately. And then, but it just remains brutal. And one of the things that they did early on, there's a human rights lawyer named Shirin Ebadi. She won the Nobel Peace Prize years ago. She said the Islamic Revolution wasn't an Islamic revolution as much as it was a revolution against women. Because really what they did was, as soon as they took power, they started taking away power from women. So they go, oh, women, you have to wear the hijab. Men, you wear whatever you want. But women, you have to wear the hijab. And then in courts, you only count as half the testimony as a man. And then there's all these other things that women can't do. You can't go to stadiums to watch sporting events. There's a lot of stuff. And they oppressed women. And one of the ways I was trying to get Americans to pay attention to what's going on is I said, Iran is a cautionary tale of what happens when you start letting religion seep into politics. And I go, if you don't think they're going to take away your rights, they already did. The right to choose. I'm not saying I'm pro or anti or whatever. I'm saying you don't have a choice anymore. They've taken away your right to choose. The same way they first went after women. And then after that, who did they go after? LGBTQ. Well, Clarence Thomas said, we're going to review, basically said they're going to review gay marriage. And then who did they go after next? Religious minorities. Again, Iran has been persecuting this this group. They're called Baha'is. So anyway, it goes on and on and on.
Jamie and I are both Baha'is.
There you go, the Baha'is. So you know that. So in Iran, the Baha'is are more persecuted than any other religion. And so I think that whether you're a man or a woman or whatever, or American, I think what you have to do is recognize that this is a battle for democracy. Recognize that I think what Iranians have to do, and I'm not a politician, I don't know exactly, but I think at some point Iranians have to figure out a way to convince the West that a free Iran is better for them than the Iran that's there right now. So as a world, I think we need to put pressure and we need to find a way. I don't know. I really don't know what that solution is.
Yeah. But I think to your point, I'm a journalist. And so I often see and hear, valid concerns where people are like, the press isn't covering this enough. And what I always want to tell people is like, the press will cover it if you read it, right? And, obviously there's all kinds of journalistic, integrity and ethics. Like there's certain things that just must be covered, but it will be covered more if you talk about it more. And so share those stories, read those stories, click on those links. And to your point, amplifying Iranian voices does make a difference. And then who reads newspapers? Politicians. Who wants to be elected? Or do you know who elects politicians? The people who are reading the newspapers. So if you are consuming these stories, if you're sharing these stories, you're really actually sending a really powerful message. You have so much power as a consumer, as a citizen. And so it's one of those kind of rare cases where posting and tweeting kind of is something that can make a difference.
You're listening to the Man Enough Podcast. We'll be right back. Hey, everyone. It's Jamie Heath from the Man Enough Podcast. Let's talk about education, how it's at the heart of everything we do in America. And if you're anything like me, you know how important it is to give our children the best education possible. And it should be at the top of all of our minds. Because in our many schools, there are powerful people making educational decisions in the name of business or politics that affect the content that our children learn. Sometimes it's rooted in fear or unconscious prejudices, and in some cases, very conscious ones. And that's why we want you to check out the brand new podcast, The Citizen Stewart Show. The Citizen Stewart Show is an independent, pull-no-punches podcast about the perils and promise of education and how we can work toward a better system overall. The Citizen Stewart Show is hosted by Chris Stewart, who's witnessed the systemic inequities in education firsthand as a parent, education activist, and former school board member. Each week, he and co-host Ravi Gupta, a former Obama staffer and superintendent of a network of charter schools in the South, share an inside look at how the education system in America is rigged against our kids. And they talk about what we can do to change it. So join the conversation with the Citizen Stewart Show every Tuesday on the Lost Debate Podcast Network. You can find the Citizen Stewart Show on Amazon, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your shows. All right. Welcome back to the Man Enough Podcast.
How does comedy play a role in this? How do you use comedy to affect change, specifically you? And then also a two-part question. How do you walk the tightrope of not getting canceled? I know comedy is, in some ways, been under attack. I know there are comedians that are very frustrated. The idea of free speech. But then, of course, what is free speech? It's funny until they're coming after you.
Yeah.
And then so I'm just curious how you approach it and how you're affecting change and how you're talking about the things that you care about and the dance you're doing.
Well, first of all, with comedy, you talk about the things you care about. So that's how you talk about the things you care about because that's what you talk about. So if you're somebody who, the whole thing of like, oh, I just broke up with my girlfriend, usually that's coming from someone who's been dating somebody or what have you. So for me right now with the Iran stuff happening, I'm like, I got to come up with some stuff to talk about it on stage. Part of comedy is to, I think, inform people about certain things, you'll see it even with, whether you like him or not, with Chappelle, like sometimes he'll talk about something that the audience might not have known as well. And then he brings your attention to it and then hopefully has a punchline. And I think I heard D.L. Hughley say one time, comedy is like giving people their medicine, but in orange juice. And so really it starts from your intention. So I talk to the audience a lot. What's your name? Where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. What's your situation? But I try to also make sure they know that I'm laughing with them, not at them. Mm-hmm. So I never want anyone to think like I'm some insult comic. It's funny to me when sometimes someone will get nervous when I'm talking to them because they think they need to give a funny answer. And I'm like, just give the regular, just don't worry. We're at a party right now. You're at my party. I respect you as my guest. We're going to have a good time. And by the way, I'm going to be self-deprecating a little bit to calm everybody. Everyone calm down. And let's just talk and have fun. And so I think if you can bring certain issues to the forefront that they might not have known about, the Iran situation is actually a good one because there's a lot of people within the Iranian community who don't want performers to perform. They say, you can't be performing right now because of what our people are going through. And my argument, as well as a lot of other performers' arguments, we go, actually, I see it opposite. I see this as an opportunity for me to go on stage and encourage people to talk about the issues talk to my non-Iranian audience members and tell them about the issues.
Yeah, that seems logical.
Yeah, but unfortunately, our community is such that, I mean, it's so the atrocities that the young people are going through right now, getting shot at and killed and beaten, and the videos and the pictures that come out. I understand. Some people are going, we're mourning, and how could you go laugh?
Yeah.
And I go, well, I see it as, like, again, two things. One is a good way to use my platform to keep encouraging everybody to be the voice of the people of Iran. And secondly, it's a therapy session for all of us, because we've all been immersed, or at least the ones that have been paying attention have been immersed in this. And so we go for an hour and a half or so, and we kind of like have a therapy session. And in that therapy session, I talk about certain things. Like a joke that I'm working on, but this came out of reality, was, the generation before, my parents' generation, were always fearful of the Islamic regime. And so they would always say, don't talk about the government, or don't talk about the Islamic regime, because they'll come after you. And I'm like, who's coming? They will, and they're going to come. I'm like, who are these people? And so they got in our heads that, like, and it's true. Like, I know a lot of Iranian adults who would travel back and forth just to visit family and stuff. And there was times when they would be like, if there was a picture with men and women all in one picture, they'd be like, I don't want to get in the picture, because they're afraid they're going to land at the airport. Wow. Somehow this dude's picture is going to end up on some database, and they're going to be like, oh, you were in a picture with a woman. That's how paranoid they were. Well, this current generation is tough, and they don't care. They're done. Like, they're taking off. You were saying there's videos of schoolgirls taking off their hijab and flipping off the Supreme Leader and Khomeini. And so the joke comes about out of reality. This actually happened. So when the whole thing first, the protest first started, I did a video on my Instagram saying, I stand with the people of Iran. I, give my support, this, that, the other. And I just posted on my Instagram, let it be. And then my aunt from the older generation, she called me, and she left me this long, actually she left me a message on WhatsApp. What are you doing? Don't do this. These people are ruthless. They'll come after you. The game is bigger than you can think. Like, there's governments have already decided who's going to be just this long thing. And I was like, oh my God, was she like? I was like, I don't know what she's talking about, but she got in my head. and I happened to be in Europe touring, and I was in Germany on this tour, and I was in my hotel room, and I guess I didn't put the do not disturb sign on, because at 7 a.m, the maid comes busting it, and I jumped out of. I thought it was them. I was like, and I jumped out. I'm like, ah! And the lady's like, "Fuggen." I'm like, ah! And she's like, "I'm cleaning." I go, get out of here! But it was funny to me.
I thought you were going to look different.
Okay, exactly. and so it's turned into this bit where I tell the story on stage, and then I go into a little bit and go, look, I mean, I don't know, like, if they, like, I go, I'm so low. I think I'm so low on their, wanted list. I go, I'm probably like number 10,000. I go, if they send somebody after me, it'd be like the intern. They'd be like, you have to go to a comedy show and then get them. And then the guy shows up in New York City and he's like, I'm having a great time, whatever. So
it's become best friends. It's like a road trip movie.
A road trip movie. Yeah. So
romantic comedy.
You talk about your experiences and you try to find the comedy. You never, in my mind, you never make a victim the punchline of a joke. And I think that brings some levity to the situation. It makes people laugh. And it also reminds people, definitely the Iranians in that crowd are nodding when I'm talking about the older generation. And also, every time I have friends of mine, they're comedians, they go, yeah, young people are too woke and this and that. I go, listen, again, like I did a show for, there was incoming freshmen at Cal. I went to Cal, so they've asked me to come back. And every year I get older, and they're still 16 or 17.
And they give you free swag.
They give me free. Like, this is what I get paid with. And so I wish I were lying, but I'm not. And then this past year it was interesting because this Indian Sikh kid kind of started heckling me, and I was like, I had a hard time like saying too much back because I didn't want to offend anybody. And I was like, and I forget what happened because he was heckling me, and then there was this other Asian kid who saw him. He's like, hey, whatever, Mike. And then they started talking to each other. And I made some comment like, my God, this is getting nerdier by the minute or something like that. And it was funny because these were all these young, smart, nerdy kids. And I think they all kind of looked at me like, did you just call us nerds? And I was like, am I gonna get in trouble for calling these kids nerds? But I was having fun with them. But at the same time, you know, you learn, you take a step. You know, like I personally don't want to have any audience that's homogenous. I like having a diverse audience. But I also, like, whenever my friends go, oh, they canceling, I go, look, the right was canceling people way before anybody on the left started canceling me. And I said, I can tell you as somebody who was doing Trump jokes during Trump that I got yelled at when I got to the Trump jokes. There's actually a clip I put on YouTube of this lady. She was drunk. She was with me for 55 minutes. The last 5 minutes, when I started talking about Trump, and I didn't even say anything too harsh. I was just talking about like how he kept tweeting all the time. And I was like, it's ridiculous. I'm like, I can't, keep up. And it's like a game of Tetris and it just keeps coming. And it's like, one block is like bullshit and then a lie. And then this. So I got into that a little bit. And then she was drunk. She's like, I am offended. And I learned to kind of just, kind of Tai Chi it all. I was like, wow, it's so great. We live in a country where you can be offended. Great. People have tried to cancel people all the time because the problem is if you have a voice, the people watching you or reading you or seeing you feel like they should be able to say something. But back in the day, they used to have to write you a letter and then you read it. Right now, they just go under your post and be like, "I saw you at the Chuckle Hut, and you said that people who eat M&Ms are, whatever."
You're listening to the Mad Enough Podcast. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. It's Jamie here from the Mad Enough Podcast. Lately, there's been a lot of pressure to build a perfect morning routine. And personally, I don't have one. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is kiss my wife or make some coffee or prepare for golf. What's the first thing that you do when you wake up? Is it checking your credit score? Nah, I didn't think so. That's why we have Chime. Chime Financial is dedicated to helping their members build credit over time. With their secured Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card, you can start to build credit with your own money, no annual fees or credit checks to apply. So start your credit journey with Chime. Sign up only takes 2 minutes and it doesn't affect your credit score. Get started at chime.com/manenough. That's chime.com/manenough. The Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card is issued by Stride Bank N.A. Pursuant to a license from Visa USA Chime checking account, and a $200 qualifying direct deposit is required to apply for the secured Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card. Regular on-time payment history can have a positive impact on your credit score. Impact to score may vary, and some users' scores may not improve. Out-of-network ATM withdrawal fees may apply, except at MoneyPass ATMs in a 7-Eleven or any Allpoint or Visa Plus Alliance ATM. All right, welcome back to the Mad Enough Podcast. Just out of curiosity, being someone that was raised as a Baha'i, as you mentioned, I have a lot of family and friends dear to my heart that are Persian, that are from Iran, that fled Iran during the revolution in 79. Grew up there, cousins and family, and very close to it. And I have felt the pain of a community that oftentimes is forgotten, not thought about. Since the 9/11 events, someone that looked like you oftentimes was just appeared and labeled to be a terrorist. It just was everywhere. If you were Muslim, then that was bad. If you looked like you or anyone that may have come from a neighboring place, there was so much fear around it. And these were my brothers and sisters that were experiencing this, and the hatred and the pain. And then the women, what was happening there. That's been going on. A lot of people just don't pay attention to it.
Listen, I don't blame people. I don't blame people because I know every country's got its own problems. People have their lives going on. You can't just, pay attention to everything. But I was actually on a flight, Dudamel, LA Symphony Orchestra. He's Venezuelan, and there was a documentary about him. And the documentary was about this group of Venezuelan musicians, young musicians that he would go back and work with. And there was this great program for young Venezuelan musicians to grow. And in the documentary, it talks about how when he's going back to do some event, there's major protests in Venezuela, and then people are asking him to speak up, and he doesn't know if he should because this organization that he works with is actually funded by the government. And up until then, he'd been a hero for the government had accepted him. He'd been non-political, but then he finally realized he's got to say something. So he writes this op-ed piece in the New York Times, and then the government defunds his program. And it's heartbreaking, but I go, wow, where was I when all this was happening? Why didn't I hear about this this huge, hundreds of thousands of people protesting in Venezuela? Because again, we're all busy, we're running around, but I was like, wow, if I hear of it again, I'm going to try and go to the protests. Like I'm going to try and be there.
Yeah. Well, this is why it's important. And the reason why I brought that up before was that by bringing this to our attention, and when I say ours, maybe America, that we realize that this, in fact, is our backyard. It may not look exactly as it looks in Iran, but it's happening right here in different ways. And then it makes me think, what am I doing personally? Just as me, as Jamie, as I walk through the world with the opportunities I have, with the privilege that I have as being a man.
Yeah.
What am I doing tangibly that can make it look different for the neighboring countries and then therefore my own country?
Yeah.
Which then leads me to want to ask the question that what do you feel based on all this? And thank you for sharing all that so wonderfully. And I think our audience gleaned a lot from it. What do you think is important for us here and how we live? And I don't necessarily mean like in showing up for rallies and things of that nature, just in our own personal lives as men, how we can behave differently so that things like that can look different.
Well, I think again, it goes back to, I take it beyond just a male female thing. I think there's sympathy and empathy, and there's if you can stand up for any person or anything that's that is being bullied or oppressed or whatever, you try to do that, right? So, but
isn't that a little broad though? And I appreciate that. But when we say because this is kind of a blanket statement, we should always be for good, stand up for all people that are oppressed. Yes. But with that, sometimes there are things that we identify, and this is where I put particular energy in. And as a man, I have opportunity that's different than Liz. As somebody white, he has opportunity that's different than someone who's black that should stand up for all people, right? So there's certain things. And being that the show and what we like to talk about is how to reframe what masculinity looks like, how men can be even better. And that's why I specifically frame it around that is how can you, myself, be different? What things do we have that have impact specifically to the privilege that we have as men?
Well, again, I go beyond a man, and I think humanity. I just keep getting back to that. I mean, it's as simple as this. Like I realize I travel a lot as a comedian, and when you're traveling, everyone's got their head down and they're trying to be the first on the train, first on the this and that. And I realized, wow, everyone's on edge these days. I kept seeing these videos of people fighting on airplanes. I'm going, what's going on? And I said, I'm going to go out of my way to just be, cordial and after you, go ahead. Nope, just that kind of I naturally was like that before, but I was going to go above and beyond. And it's a simple thing, but if I get a chance to, whether it's a guy or girl, I don't care. Somebody needs help putting the luggage up. Let me help you out. To be supportive, I don't know. These are all.
Let me challenge you just a little bit.
Challenge me.
I'm sorry, because yes. But let me put the "and" in there as well.
Go ahead.
Of course, this is how we should live as humans, but a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
And we're seeing all kinds of ills throughout society.
Right.
It's not enough just to do that. It's
Right.
not enough to just help someone lift their luggage up and put it on this stuff and to say thank you and to be nice and all that stuff. It's just not enough.
Okay.
We have to do more. We have to sometimes say, here's a specific need. This part of the body is got to cut, and I specifically need to address that in the unique way that I know how. And men in this country, throughout the world, and speaking of what's happening in Iran, by the way, this is not happening because of women's leadership.
Right.
This is happening because of patriarchy. This is happening throughout society. All throughout the world, we see this happening.
Right.
So we as men then have to change the fabric of our world by how we deliberately make choices that can, even if it's raising your daughter and your son, to think differently so that in the next 10, 20, 30 years, they have impact on their friends, Iranian friends, that then take it back home, and then our world starts looking different. But we have to be deliberate more than just, let me help you with your bags, right? So we have to have conversations. We have to have men maybe learn to have more empathy so that we care about someone else besides ourselves, to actually value women in ways, because clearly they don't value women, or not Iranian people, but the government there don't. How do we do things that extend our thought and our process so that the world can see women differently And it can't just be because you're being nice to someone lifting up their bag.
Well, I'm gonna disagree with you. I think that doing that, because that's, if you carry yourself that way. I've been in situations where I have friends who might still think in an old school way, like you just said. Like they might still think like men are like this, women are this, and that's it. And I kind of like laugh when they're talking, because I'm like, what are you stuck in 1995? Where are you stuck in? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was actually with a friend of mine recently. This isn't a man-woman thing, but he was, again, this guy's around my age, educated, everything. We came upon a group of younger college student aged, it was in Boston. I was doing a show. So there's college students who were going to come to my show, and they were like probably in their early 20s, late teens. I don't know their sexual preferences. I don't know what they were, but they were just they seemed very young and with it. You know what I'm saying? Like they were kind of what you're saying, that future where men and women support each other, and there's just a group of people having a good time. And this guy, he didn't mean anything, but he was just like, it just turns out that this other guy that we know had just bought this bar. He's a restaurateur. And the bar had been known as a gay bar, and now this guy had bought this bar and was trying to make it wider. And so this guy was trying to tell these young people about it. And he's like, "Yeah," he goes, "You guys should go check out that bar. My friend bought it. It used to be a gay bar, and now." And the way he said it, I was like, "What's wrong with you? Like this group you're talking to could be LGBTQ, and even if they're not, like the way you're saying it, it makes it seem like there's something derogatory to it." So that, as a man, that person, in my opinion, needs to grow and be like, "Oh, I'm in 2022. I can't talk and think the way men did 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 60 years ago." And sometimes the stupidity of it. Like, again, Iran's a good example of, they have had such a brain drain. Because somebody was pointing out, if you look at Iranians, especially in Southern California, it's a big population, and they're all very successful. And I was talking to this lady who was this Jewish lady. We were on a plane together and just having a conversation. And she goes, "Gosh, there's so many doctors and all this other stuff." She goes, "Imagine if they'd stayed in Iran and what impact they could have had." And this is men and women doctors. And I go, "You're right. Like, they all left because that country was oppressive to them." So similarly, like, I guess if you were to talk to somebody who still is thinking old school, the idea of, like, how much more advanced you would be just as an individual and as a society if you embraced the fact that women that's half the population, if not more. I just don't see a difference. I really don't. Like, maybe we all grew up like, okay, you like cars and you like dolls and this and that, but I go, who cares? Like, whatever.
Yeah, but there is a difference, right? Like, what's happening in Iran is to Jamie's point, different from what's happening in the U.S., but there's also so many similarities, right? Currently, in many states, women and girls are forced to carry a pregnancy, forced to become mothers when they don't want to. There's people on television, on a propaganda network, telling women to get married. Because it makes them vote in a certain way, and right, like you could think that those stories are coming from Tehran or they're coming from Kentucky.
Yeah.
And so when we. And so I actually disagree with you, Jamie, that I think that what you do here does end up impacting men and women in Iran, right? Like, there's so much. I agree with that. Yeah. But even by changing the way that men respond and react to men who make homophobic comments, or male lawmakers who are trying to force girls to be pregnant with rapist babies at 10 years old, like that actually challenges a culture, which then will make what's happening in Iran less likely. It starts with, sometimes I feel like men are, in the way that like white people are kind of bribed into becoming more racist by elites dangling certain things for them, right? And saying, tapping into their insecurities and saying, you know, you're like particularly poor white people, I think in the United States, are told that all their problems are going to be solved with policies that actually are so against their own interests. But because racism is used, it like makes them think that things are going to get better. And I feel like we do that, like men. That it's like there's a similar thing with men, and so men kind of buy into the patriarchy and buy into sexism when it's those little things. And then it grows and grows, and then you realize you're, you know, in a fascist regime. And so I wonder if there are ways that we can, first of all, really, for people who are listening, like you calling out a guy making a homophobic comment does make a difference.
Sure.
Like that makes a big difference.
And it's brave as shit.
Yeah.
100%.
And it's masculine as shit, if you ask me. But right, like, and so I guess, yeah, I'm wondering. Yeah, I'm with you on humanity and, you know, we should just all be nice to each other. But let's be honest, like there are power structures in our society.
No, absolutely. There's power structures here. There's, like you said, I mean, that's part of what I try to talk about is I try to say my country of birth is your future. If you elect Herschel Walkers, you're going to end up with the future. Because when you listen to, I mean, and it has nothing to do with, you know, his lack of
mental prowess,
but also like his lack of qualifications. But it has to do with every third word is about, you know, Jesus said this, Jesus said that, the Lord. And again, I'm not against religion. If religion, whatever your religion is, great. But if you are making policies based on your religion, and we just saw it again, what you just said, the abortion issue, and then also these people in these states. Who feel that certain things should be certain ways because it's a book that was written 1,000 years ago says so. I go, 2,000 years. I go, I've seen this before. This is I've seen this movie before.
Okay.
And in 1979, I saw this movie where they came in and they said, oh, the book says this, and this, and this guy Khomeini, who happens to be some guy who's got a line to God. No, he's just a guy who memorized the Quran really well. He's a crazy old dude who says, like, oh, I got to figure it out. This is what you should do. Women need to do because the Quran told me. It's crazy. The hypocrisy, there's this whole thing of like, you see like guys like Matt Gaetz or Tucker Carlson or some of these guys going like, men aren't men anymore. What do you talk? What is a man? What do you want me to, like, what am I supposed to do to prove that I'm like, what do you want? What do you want? Like, and by the way, I think an evolved man is somebody who goes, I don't have to shoot a deer to be a man. You know, maybe I'm gonna take ballet lessons. Oh yeah, I think that'll be fantastic, right? So that's, you know, here's the thing. I think no matter how we look at it, at least in the West, part of why the far right is so passionate right now is because they see in front of their eyes things are changing.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, they're changing. I'm trying to be on board with my kids, but they're way ahead of me. So I tell, like, sometimes this is a big thing in comedy. A lot of comedians go, man, they canceled me, or you know, whatever. I go, okay, first of all, why do you think what did you say that got you canceled? Let's look at that, and then let's look at the fact that maybe, 20 years ago that was okay to say, but the world we're living in now, it just isn't. And maybe you should write new jokes. And maybe you should evolve so that when you do perform, because we're getting older, right? So you don't want to be 80 years old and doing stand-up and have only 5 80-year-olds left watching you. You want to be able to do, like, Carlin's probably a good example. As he got older, he still had younger fans.
Yeah.
Like, I love having younger fans show up at shows. And then sometimes I'm watching them to be like, are they getting this? Are they bored? Am I the old guy? And I'm hoping that they're getting it. And I'm hoping that I'm not the old guy. But we have to evolve, and it's happening whether we like it or not.
Do you feel like there's a generational difference between younger men and your generation? Like, are you sensing that shift even with your son? Like, what are the differences?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, again, I personally have been someone who's I try to be very open-minded and just go with the flow. Even within my own friends, like I said, that guy who was making homophobic comments and not even realizing it. I have friends that will say stuff that's just, again, it makes you... I feel old when they say it. Going,
right. You're making me look bad.
Yeah, I'm like, really, dude? Like, you're really going to say, something that, like, in the 90s was... are you not Are you not aware of what's happening?
Mhm.
Right.
And with my kids, I mean, my kids and a lot of kids I see, at least around us, they give me hope for the future. Meanwhile, I do. My kids have run into also bullying from kids who were, whether it was racial related, because my wife is Indian, so my kids have darker skin. They've had racial slurs thrown at them. So that's out there. There's kids that are being brought up another way. It breaks my heart for those kids.
Yeah.
And I really want to just like talk to the parents and go, what are you thinking? Like, why are you teaching this? You know what I'm saying? It's heartbreaking. Again, I think as individuals, we do our best on one-on-one relationships, or we do our best when we can. If you have the potential, like when, for example, when it was interesting when Roe v. Wade was overturned, I did some video saying, I support women and a woman's right to choose, and I just felt like I have to do it. Not that I'm nobody in this game. I'm not like, oh, I'm going to be, taking this to the Supreme Court. No, I just felt like on my social media, I want to state where I stand. And it was interesting because I ran into 2 or 3 different female comedians who were like, thank you for making that video. And I was like, oh, isn't everybody? And I guess they're not. And I was like, well, that's a bummer because I think we should.
Why do you think not more men took a stand?
I don't know. Maybe some men actually don't believe in it. I don't know. Or maybe they couldn't be bothered by it. I don't know.
They don't know how to say it. Or, again, coming back to our conversation, they don't connect it to their own freedom. I think that actually happened. I think what's happening, again, to very grossly generalize, I think what's happening in Iran and what's happening in the U.S. is there's a similarity there where women are leading the charge when it comes to fighting for abortion rights. But a lot of men are realizing, like, this ain't just about her. This is about me too. And this is about if they take, to your point, if they take her freedom, my freedom is next. And so, and do you see that kind of shift, or do you guys not even talk about this?
Gosh, I don't know. I know that like some people in analyzing the election results, they said that abortion had something to do with it. And again, I feel like the thing that I think we all hear a lot on social media and on all these talking head networks is we hear the loud hypocrites. We hear the Jim Jordans and the Ted Cruzes and the Josh Hawleys and the guys who are like, what's wrong with this person? The Ron Johnsons. How do you watch January 6th and go, it was peaceful tourists? Like, wait, what? Like, what do you? So we hear them, but then when you see a result like we did in this, what was supposed to be a red wave but wasn't, you go, oh, there's still enough people who catch the BS, and there's probably more of those people, and we just got to work harder and harder because they are trying to find ways to game the system. So and they did. It took them 40 whatever it was years to get rid of abortion, and so they really reached that goal. And how they do that? They got the Supreme Court justices that they needed, and they did it. And so it doesn't mean we sit back and go, well, our numbers are more, so let's go ahead and sit back. We'll just win every time we vote. No, they're trying to get rid of your vote. And again, that can go back to, again, you're right, Iran is a cautionary tale, because I would say majority of Iranians in Iran don't want their leadership, but that's what they have. There's a reason why the Iranian government is shooting into crowds of protesters, because they want the protesters to stop. So they're desperate. And they're doing that. And I'm not encouraging anybody to go out and get themselves killed, but I'm saying if you analyze it, that's what's going on. And that's the same reason why they're running circles around themselves, trying to take away voting rights, running circles around themselves, trying to shut women up. When I see anybody who's part of a group that's being oppressed and they stand with the other side, I go, what? Wake up. You just want how badly do you want less taxes? I don't want more taxes.
That's right. I do have sorry. Give me short answers real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious.
Yes.
How would you rate yourself, honest here,
Rate myself.
as a father between 1 and 10?
Oh gosh, as a dad, I'm gonna give myself a 10.
10?
Maybe 9.
Okay, 9.
Because I'm not around I travel a lot. But when I'm around, I'm a good dad.
So yeah, that was my follow-up question was going to be.
Well, you know what? I'll give it an 8 because
all right, 8.
Because there's these dads that go do paintball and all that stuff. I'm a little too lazy for that.
So then you give yourself an 8,
Yeah.
and then quickly,
Yeah.
something concrete that you could be what you could do to be a 9?
Go play paintball with the kids.
So you answered it. How about rate yourself as a husband, 1 to 10?
I'm gonna say like 7-ish.
Okay, what can you do to be an 8?
I could probably be a little more like romantic and attentive, and I'm tired a lot, you know. But at the same time, I want to do romantic stuff, and I once in a while I do it. But then again, like I said, I get into this rut sometimes. Like it goes through waves. Sometimes I'm like, you know, I'm good, and then sometimes I'm just too lazy.
Okay, so being a bit more romantic and
just a little more attentive.
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 That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well,
And then
to many women, attentive is
exactly.
romance.
Not tentative. Attentive.
No,
attentive. Yeah.
And I would say, but I like how you keep reframing it. Where would you rate yourself as a human?
I'm a good human. I mean, I
1
think
to 10.
you know, I personally, people tell me I'm nice all the time, so I'm going to give myself a 8.5.
What can you do to be a 9.5?
Oh gosh, what could I be? I'm going to give myself a 9. I'm gonna there's a lot of assholes out there.
What can you do to be a 10?
Well, what I could do to be a 10 is probably, gosh, I'm trying. I honestly, I listen to a lot of friends. I'm always there to talk to people.
These are all listening while you're a 9.
I pick up. No, I'm trying to figure out. I pick up trash if there's trash out and about. Take the dog for a walk.
Good.
What could make me a 10? Maybe if I learned to play an instrument and brought peace to people's lives.
Good.
I actually have a friend. There's a comedian, Dom Herrera, whom I love. And he was telling me he's the nicest guy too, and he's somebody I looked up to when I first started, and he's still a great guy. And he left me a message. He's like, "Did I ever tell you? I was talking to so and so, and we were saying who's one of the nicest comedians?" And it was we said it's you. And I was like, "Oh, that's so nice." And I was like, "Wait a minute, not the funniest?" So you know,
which then leads us to a question that we like to ask people when we're wrapping up. Liz, I think this is appropriate.
It's on
for
me.
you. Yeah.
Okay, what does it mean to you to be man enough?
What does it mean to me to be man enough? I just think you need to, I hope, to step up, especially when you're needed by friends, by loved ones, by people you don't know. And it could be as small as helping people with their suitcase on something, or it could be a friend of yours is going through some difficult times and just needs someone to be with. And you know, I think that's quote unquote man enough. But again, if we want to really break stereotypes, that should be human enough.
Yeah. Good.
Right? Not just man enough.
That's why I called my book that's out, Boys Will Be Human.
Yeah.
So boys will be boys. Well, Maz, you are man and human enough.
That's right.
Thank you.
And we'll have to have you back because there's so much we didn't get
There's
into.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for helping raise awareness and for inspiring us to use our voices and for talking about what's happening in Iran. And
So important.
especially as Baha'is, what I loved is you brought up the plight and the struggle of the persecution of Baha'is without even knowing that me and Jamie were Baha'is.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really, really like it spoke to who you are because we've been trying to get people to talk about what's happening to the Baha'is for years.
Yeah.
And without even knowing that, you brought that up. It meant a lot to me.
I appreciate, you know, Baha'is, some of my best friends are Baha'is and I love them. And I think we all got to stand together. That's right. There's a famous Persian poet. His name's Sa'di. And he has this poem that's all about how we're all, he does this analogy of the human body and the world. And he talks about how like, if you have one part of your body hurting, and you don't feel it, then you're not human. Meaning, like if one person is hurting on the other side of the world, we should have sympathy and
That's right.
and feel it. So
Just like the human body.
Yeah.
We love it.
We do.
For all of you listening, thank you so much for joining us. You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts, or you can go to
manenough.com/podcast.
Until next time, I'm Justin Baldoni.
I'm Liz Plank.
And I'm Jamie Heath.
This is Man Enough.